Tommy Novak signs with the Nashville Predators. We have the details and his reaction on this breaking news episode of Locked On Predators podcast.
Your Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to this breaking news shortened episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am Ann Kimmel. I am a writer at Penalty Box Radio, and this is a special quick episode of Locked On Predators to talk about the breaking news today that the Nashville Predators have signed Tommy Novak to a deal. Of course, we will have a full episode out on Tuesday, but heads up, that episode was actually pre-recorded before the news broke today that Novak had signed a 3-year, $3.5 million AAV contract with the Nashville Predators. So wanted to jump on and just update everybody on the deal and also share some of the reaction that we got from Tommy Novak after the news was announced. Again, this is a 3-year deal that Novak signed. Total value of $10.5 million. It's $3.5 million per year for 3 years. And this deal has received overwhelmingly positive reviews. And I really think rightly so. It feels like a very good compromise contract, as it was rumored that Tommy Novak's camp was really looking for somewhere in the ballpark of $4 million a year. Nashville wasn't necessarily sure that they wanted to pay that high of a price. So I think what happened is these two parties really found a way to meet in more in the middle and come up with a 3.5 annual price tag. But the term is 3 years, which gives Tommy Novak a little bit longer time with the Nashville Predators. Doesn't feel like a bridge deal. This feels like a deal that is an investment in Novak during this reset. Of course, Tommy Novak has been a name that several teams have been rumored to be interested in. The one that I think we've heard the most about is the New York Rangers. And I think that interest has just increased recently as Tommy Novak has really found his stride, especially through this 8-game win streak. He's really contributing to what the Nashville Predators are doing on the ice. And it became very apparent over the last week or so as you watch Tommy Novak's play continue to improve and to affect games even more as than it had maybe earlier in the season. It became evident that Barry Trotz really was looking to lock down Tommy Novak. So let's take just a quick look at some of his stats, and let's start big picture. Tommy Novak has played 129 career NHL games. He made his debut October 19th of 2021 against the LA Kings, scored his first NHL goal December 17th of 2021. Just kind of an interesting fact, he had 3 assists in his 3rd NHL game. So this is somebody who really showed playmaking ability early in his time with the NHL. But Novak was back and forth between the NHL and the AHL. Last season, he was called up December 19th, and he stayed and finished the season. Now, you remember at the end of last season, David Poile did a big sell-off at the trade deadline. We also had injuries to a lot of the big veterans, Roman Josi, Philip Forsberg, Matt Duchene was out. Tommy Novak was one of those players that really stepped up his play in the spring and helped the Predators make a run for a playoff spot. Ultimately, they didn't make it, but he was one of the players that really stood out as, hey, this is somebody who we need to take a look at if the Predators are seriously going to undertake this reset under Barry Trotz when he took over. In his last season, he played a total of 51 games, 17 goals, 43 points. This season, Novak made the roster right out of camp, and I don't think anybody was surprised by that after what we saw from him in the spring and just the direction the team was going. This was a player that Nashville needed to take a good long look at to see if he was going to be somebody that could be a part of a reset for the Predators. Now he is on pace to set a career high in points this season, and he could potentially be a 20-goal scorer for the Nashville Predators. He has played 51 games so far this season, 13 goals, 21 assists, 34 points. He is the fifth leading point scorer for the Predators behind Roman Josi and those top three forwards, Ryan O'Reilly, Philip Forsberg, and Gus Nyquist. And then you have Tommy Novak right there. Keep in mind, too, Novak missed a stretch of time in November with an upper body injury. Through that stretch where Nashville had that 6-game win streak, they didn't have Tommy Novak. So we haven't seen him healthy this whole season, but we're seeing him healthy now, seeing him get back into that performance that caught everybody's eye in April. His play again recently, excellent. He has 5 points in his last 5 games. And I think if you look at just his performance alone in the Colorado game on Saturday night, he had just an incredible power play goal with a move around Bo Byram in the slot to score. He also had, I think, just as impressive, a great assist on Cody Glass's second goal, where he made a pass with very small space to Glass in the slot for Glass to score. I think there are a number of reasons why this deal is a great deal for the Nashville Predators. Number one, I think we haven't seen Tommy Novak's ceiling yet. And that might seem surprising. This is a 26-year-old player. And so you would think at this point, you basically know exactly what you're going to get. He's in his prime. He's at his peak. I don't think that's true of Tommy Novak. I really believe that there is even more there. And if the Nashville Predators can pull that out, this could potentially be a player that could help this reset move along at a pace that Barry Trotz likes. I do think we want to see more development of his 200-foot game. This is not necessarily somebody that you think of like, hey, when you think hard forechecking, you think Tommy Novak. That's really not it. But I do think the Predators want to see a little bit more growth in his 200-foot game. But I also think there is even more there when it comes to his playmaking. Tommy Novak is one of the smartest hockey players you're going to see on the ice. I remember talking to Aaron Sims, who calls the Milwaukee Admirals games, and Aaron has had a front row seat to Tommy Novak and his performances for seasons now. And I remember asking him, hey, is this a fluke? Is this just a really good stretch of hockey from Tommy Novak that we saw at the end of last year? Or is this who he is? And Aaron Sims said, that is Tommy Novak. He is that good of a playmaker. And I think we're seeing that this season now that he is healthy and finding some chemistry with some consistent line mates. We're seeing that there may be even more playmaking to Tommy Novak. He is building chemistry right now. He's playing on a line with Mark Jankowski and Luke Evangelista. And I think that's very exciting. You've got Luke Evangelista around. If you can get Novak and Evangelista, maybe a long-term duo that you find, just the right person to go with them, whether that is Jankowski or not, this could be somebody who helps Luke Evangelista come into his own in the NHL as well. So how did we find out about this announcement with Tommy Novak? Kind of a fun story. So I want to give you a peek behind that curtain. We were at morning skate this morning. At the end of morning skate, they kind of gather the team up, and we saw Roman Josi take one lap, a solo lap around the ice, stick taps from the team and cheering. We know now Roman Josi was named first star of the week by the NHL Players Association. So celebrated that. And the next thing we know, we see Tommy Novak taking a lap to stick taps. And instantly, all of us in the media kind of turned and looked at the Nashville Predators staff, and they're like, we don't have anything. We don't have anything. So I don't think that any of us, you didn't have to be Scooby-Doo to know that announcement was going to be forthcoming about a deal that Tommy Novak had signed, because that's just what they did with Michael McCarron. They did the same thing with Cole Smith. That's just kind of what they do. So went into the locker room, talked with Andrew Brunette, went into the locker room, and one of the other players happened to mention in passing something about signing Novak. And so the cat was kind of out of the bag. And so the announcement then came. And it was great. We got an opportunity then to talk to Tommy Novak about getting this contract done, about being with the Nashville Predators. And so I wanted to share a little bit about what he shared about this process. The first thing you need to know is that Novak is very happy to be staying in Nashville. He talked about liking the security of a 3-year deal. He said that it really gave him peace of mind having the deal done, having it all wrapped up, and knowing that, like, hey, I am here to focus on hockey. He did say that the process itself felt a little bit nerve-wracking to him because he was talking about a lot of money. That's a lot of money. He also shared a really great story, and I love this. Of course, the first phone call he made was to talk to his mom and dad after this deal was done. And he said in the conversation they got, reflecting back on all these different experiences that he has had in hockey leading up to his NHL career and leading up to this really great contract that he signed. And he talked about trying out for his first AAA team. And he said he was in the car with his mom and he was so nervous that he got a stomach ache and he almost couldn't get out of the car and go in. It's really fun to see him talk about, like, hey, this was me when I was young, and to see him now, just kind of having the weight of this contract off his shoulders, and to know this NHL team is very invested in Tommy Novak. The other thing that he said that I thought was really neat is he talked about the Predators organization being a place that gave him chances and rewarded him for success. He was very upfront and said, look, I have had some struggles in my career. It's been up and down. But with the Nashville Predators, I always felt like they were rooting for me. They gave me opportunities and they rewarded me. So I think, just a really positive response from Tommy Novak, very excited. I think he's very relieved to have it done. The focus is on hockey right now, but it's difficult to know when you're off the ice that these are the things that are circulating around. And there were plenty of rumors about Novak. Again, the New York Rangers were rumored to be very interested in him and not the only team interested in him. So what could Novak have brought if Barry Trotz opted to trade him? I don't think it's far-fetched that he could have brought a first-round pick or been a big piece in a major package for like a big fish if Barry Trotz had one available. Tommy Novak was somebody that I think several teams were looking at. So there was a more value on Novak at this point than I think any other time in the season. We talked about what we expected Novak could have gotten in Tuesday's episode, again, pre-recorded before this news broke. So listen to that and let us, we'll have to see just how right Nick and I were about that. So what does this signing mean for the other UFAs left? I think it's interesting to keep in mind that currently he is on a line with Luke Evangelista and another UFA, Mark Jankowski. So I wonder if the Predators continue to have success. We've talked about this recently. They've got 4 lines playing extremely well. Their ice time is very comparable line to line. Andrew Brunette is trusting all of these lines in all different situations. Will this signing of Tommy Novak and the way that he's playing with Jankowski, will we see a deal for Jankowski? If we did, I think it would be just a bridge deal, something to keep in mind. Another player that you want to kind of watch and see what happens with is Yakov Trenin. Is the Tommy Novak deal going to be a situation where Barry Trotz is saying, we want Tommy Novak, which means we may not have room, money, or the desire to re-sign somebody like Yakov Trenin? Or will this Novak deal maybe mean that Trotz is going to do some bridge deals with players like Jankowski or Trenin? I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I also don't think it's far-fetched to say that Barry Trotz may just let these UFAs ride and let them go, quote unquote, for nothing for the rest of the season, because he has said, I want to give these guys as much runway as possible to continue to evaluate them for the future. So let's see if Novak's deal is maybe the first domino for a couple of other players that Barry Trotz may know he wants to resign. Maybe Tommy Novak's deal means some of these players won't come back. It'll be interesting to see. Again, Tommy Novak, 3-year, $10.5 million deal signed today. Nashville Predators are going to be watching Tommy Novak and the rest of the roster tonight as they take on the Montreal Canadiens. They are looking for their 9th win in a row. We're going to see what they can do, and we preview that game on Tuesday's regularly scheduled episode of Locked on Predators. We hope you guys will be sure to check out that episode as well. Hope you have a great day, and we'll talk with you soon.